Good morning, Chairman Tonko and Pallone, Republican leaders Shimkus and Walden, and other members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear today. I'm Rich Powell, Executive Director of ClearPath, a nonprofit that develops conservative policies that accelerate clean energy innovation. ClearPath supports flexible, low-carbon technologies, nuclear, hydropower, carbon capture for both coal and gas, and energy storage. Climate change is an urgent challenge that merits action at every level of the government and private sector. It is too important to be a partisan punching bag. Climate change deserves a pragmatic and technology-inclusive agenda to make the global clean energy transition cheaper and faster. It's conservative to hedge for this risk. Heavy industry is aggressively moving onto solutions to deal with climate issues. Southern Company is reducing their emissions in half by 2030 and will be low to no carbon by 2050. Shell also aims to cut emissions in half by 2050. Notably, senior executives from Southern, Shell, and just last week BP are linking their pay to hitting emissions targets. These examples illustrate that the federal government should enable private sector solutions through market-oriented policies. Crucially, we must also remember that climate change is a global problem. A molecule of CO2 emitted on the other side of the world has the same impact as one released here. Since 2000, coal power generation in China nearly quadrupled. Bloomberg reports that new Chinese coal capacity remains planned roughly equivalent to the entire U.S. coal fleet. Abroad, China is financing another 100 gigawatts of coal in at least 27 countries. The expected emission growth from developing Asian countries by 2050 alone would offset a complete decarbonization of the U.S. economy. More broadly, the share of global energy supplied by clean sources has not increased since 2005. Despite significant renewables growth, global emissions continue to rise. In other words, clean development is only just keeping up with economic development. Clean is not gaining ground. Clean tech available today is simply not up to the task of global decarbonization. It must represent a better, cheaper alternative so developing nations consistently choose it over higher emitting options. We have a choice. Bet that the Chinese and their partners shut down their coal-fired power plants at the expense of economic growth, or develop, demo, and export U.S.-based emissions control technologies. This technology challenge is evident in the most ambitious plan yet from a major U.S. utility. Xcel Energy recently announced plans to reduce carbon emissions 80% by 2030 and 100% by 2050. Xcel noted they will require innovation to reach their 100% goal while remaining reliable and affordable for their customers. Growing their already impressive portfolio of renewables won't be enough. A serious debate on climate solutions must include a dose of political and technical realism. Let's not rush toward any impractically hasty, exclusively renewable strategy in the U.S. that will be both costly and unlikely to reduce global emissions. If supporters of a Green New Deal truly believe climate change is an existential threat, they should focus on policies that reduce global emissions as quickly and cheaply as possible. So how do we change our trajectory? Well, we've done it before. There's no reason that clean technology needs to be more expensive or worse performing than higher emitting technology. Take America's shale gas revolution, rooted in decades of public-private research partnerships. This R&D, coupled with a $10 billion alternative production tax credit, yielded combined cycle turbines, diamond drill bits, horizontal drilling, and 3D imaging. Markets took up the technology, increasing gas from 19 to 32% of our power between 2005 and 2017, lowering emissions 28%. The same ingenuity that produced the shale boom can make that gas fully clean. Near Houston, Net Power is successfully demonstrating a groundbreaking zero-emission natural gas power plant. More broadly, it's an immensely promising time for public-private partnerships in U.S. clean innovation. Some examples. Form Energy is developing cheap, long-duration energy storage that may enable many more renewables. NuScale is licensing a small modular nuclear reactor, while Oklo and X-Energy partner with our national labs on microreactors. The last Congress hasn't received the credit it is due for boosting low-carbon technologies. Your broadly bipartisan agenda enhanced critical incentives for carbon capture, renewables, and advanced nuclear, invested in clean R&D at record levels, and reformed regulations to accelerate the licensing of both advanced nuclear reactors and hydropower. One example, The 45Q tax incentive for carbon capture was supported by a vast bipartisan coalition from environmentalists to labor to utilities to coal companies. Notably, 7 national unions just collectively restated the need to include carbon capture and nuclear in any national climate policy. Going forward, given the scale of the climate challenge, we need to greatly increase the pace and ambition of our efforts. Let's not shy away from smart investments in technology moonshots to deliver low-cost, high-performing clean technology. Let's create stronger incentives to commercialize cutting-edge companies and deploy their technologies globally. And let's remove regulatory barriers to rapidly scaling clean technology. Bipartisan cooperation on climate change is essential under divided government and attainable. In fact, it is the only chance our nation will have to play a significant role in the global solution.